Dear listeners, I welcome you to my channel. If you like my work, please subscribe to the channel, like this video and write a comment. This helps the video to promote and motivates you to try harder every day. If you want to support the channel financially, the link is in the description and in the profile header. Thank you. Enjoy listening. The glow of the computer screen was the only light illuminating Alex's small apartment as he scrolled absent-mindedly through YouTube. It was past midnight, the city outside his window long since fallen silent, yet his mind remained restless. Alex had always been fascinated by the forgotten corners of the internet, the eerie, the unexplained, the cryptic. But tonight, his aimless browsing had led him somewhere he had never thought to explore before, the very first video ever uploaded to YouTube. Me at the Zoo. The title was simple, almost underwhelming. The video itself was even more so, just a young man standing in front of an elephant enclosure, speaking casually to the camera about how cool the animals were. There was nothing particularly remarkable about it. No strange edits, no mysterious figures lurking in the background. It was just a piece of internet history. And yet, something about it unsettled him. Alex had seen the video before, of course. Everyone had. It was a well-known fact that YouTube co-founder Jawed Karim had uploaded on April 23, 2005. It was the internet equivalent of an artifact, preserved, studied, but ultimately mundane. So why did it feel off? A quick glance at the comments showed nothing unusual at first. Typical remarks about internet nostalgia, jokes about how far YouTube had come. But as he scrolled further, he noticed something strange. A thread buried deep within the comments, full of cryptic messages. This is not the original video. Has anyone seen the uncut version? They keep erasing our comments. Keep searching. His curiosity piqued, Alex clicked on one of the usernames, hoping to find more posts by them. But when he tried to follow the link, an error message appeared. This account no longer exists. Odd. He tried another. The same result. It was as if every user who had participated in that thread had vanished. Feeling a familiar rush of adrenaline, Alex copied the video's URL and ran it through an old metadata extractor he had used in past internet sleuthing. The tool pulled up the usual information, upload date, resolution, runtime, but then something caught his eye. There were additional frames logged. Frames that did not appear in the publicly available version. He tried refreshing the page, thinking it might be an error, but the data remained unchanged. According to the metadata, the original runtime was supposed to be 13 seconds longer. 13 seconds. His hands moved almost on their own as he opened an archived version of YouTube, digging through old snapshots of the site from 2005. If the video had ever existed in another form, maybe some fragment of it remained buried in internet history. What he found sent a chill down his spine. An old discussion forum from 2005 contained a post titled, "Me at the Zoo, full version?" The thread was brief, with only a few responses, but one stood out. I saw it before it was taken down. The last few seconds, he stops talking. Just stares past the camera. The elephants are gone. The screen glitches, like something's trying to come through. The user who posted it? Deleted. The account? Wiped. Alex leaned back in his chair, staring at the video on his screen. His heart pounded in his chest. He hit replay, this time watching more closely, searching the shadows, the pixels, the subtle distortions. Had something been removed from this video? Something no one was supposed to see? Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was being deliberately erased, covered up. The idea sounded absurd at first. Why would anyone care about an old YouTube video? But the inconsistencies, the missing accounts, and the metadata all pointed to something lurking just beneath the surface. Determined to uncover whatever was hidden in those lost 13 seconds, Alex decided to analyze the video frame by frame. He downloaded the highest quality version available and ran it through a video editing software, slowing it down, inspecting each frame with meticulous care. At first, nothing seemed unusual, just Jawed standing there, talking casually about elephants. Then he saw it. At precisely the 8-second mark, in the background, something flickered, a brief distortion, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. He rewound and played it again, advancing frame by frame. There. A shadowy figure, standing far behind Jod. It was indistinct, almost as if it weren't really there, just an anomaly in the compression. But the more Alex stared, the more certain he became something, was watching. His pulse quickened. Was this the reason people were claiming the original video had been altered? Had YouTube edited out something it didn't want the world to see? Curious, he extracted the video's audio track and ran it through a spectrogram, a tool that visualizes sound frequencies. Most of it appeared normal, displaying Jod's voice and background noise. But as the video neared its end, he noticed something strange, a series of faint, irregular peaks, too structured to be mere static. It almost looked like a pattern. He boosted the audio, filtering out background noise, and then listened closely. A whisper. At first, it was too faint to understand, just a breath against the silence. But after isolating the frequency, he heard it clearly. They're still here. A chill ran down his spine. He played it again, making sure he wasn't imagining things. They're still here. The words were distorted, almost mechanical, as if they had been buried beneath the audio track, never meant to be heard. His fingers trembled as he typed the phrase into a search engine, hoping to find anything that might connect it to the video. The results were sparse, mostly old conspiracy forum posts that had long since been abandoned. One caught his eye, a thread titled "The First Video, Who Else Hears It?" dated back to 2006. The original poster described exactly what Alex had just discovered, a whisper embedded in the audio, a shadow in the background. One of the responses stood out. If you heard it, it's already too late. The user who had posted it. Deleted. Alex sat back in his chair, his mind racing. This wasn't just a glitch or a compression artifact. Something, had left a message hidden in plain sight for nearly 2 decades. And now he had heard it. His phone buzzed, startling him. He glanced at the screen. A notification from an unknown number. Stop looking. His breath caught in his throat. His eyes darted around his apartment, paranoia creeping in. Was this a prank? A coincidence? Or had his search triggered something he wasn't supposed to find? For the first time, Alex hesitated. He had always loved chasing mysteries, uncovering lost stories buried in the depths of the internet. But this felt different. This felt personal. And then, just as he was about to shut his laptop, the video refreshed on its own. The title had changed. Me at the Zoo, Uncut. And the runtime had increased by 13 seconds. Alex's heart pounded as he stared at the screen. The title had changed. The runtime had increased. None of it should have been possible. His hands trembled as he clicked play. The video began just as before, Jawad Karim standing in front of the elephant enclosure, his voice casual, almost mundane. But something was different. The colors seemed duller, the background eerily silent, as if the usual ambient sounds had been stripped away. The video progressed normally until it reached the original 19-second mark. Then, the uncut footage began. Jawad suddenly stopped speaking. His expression changed, not dramatically, but subtly, as if he had just noticed something unsettling behind the camera. He glanced to his right, then over his shoulder, his posture growing stiff. The camera trembled slightly, as if the person filming had adjusted their grip. The elephants in the background weren't moving anymore. They stood perfectly still, frozen mid-step. Even the air seemed unnaturally still, as if the entire world had paused. Then, the distortion started. A low hum filled Alex's speakers, a frequency so deep it made his teeth ache. The screen flickered, the colors warping into unnatural shades of green and red. For a split second, a frame flashed. Jawad was no longer in front of the elephant enclosure. He was standing in complete darkness, his face barely visible. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Another frame flickered. This time, it was the zoo again, but the enclosure was empty. No elephants. No visitors. Just a single shadow standing where Jod had been, its features indistinct, its presence unnatural. The screen went black. Then, one last frame appeared. It was a close-up of Jod's face, his eyes wide with something that could only be described as terror. His mouth was slightly open, frozen mid-sentence. The timestamp in the corner showed April 23, 2005, but the video file had updated just moments ago. The video ended abruptly, returning to the normal YouTube interface. But the view count had reset to 0. Alex's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He tried to reload the page, but the video was gone. The URL led to an error message: "This video does not exist." A cold dread settled in his chest. Someone, or something, had uploaded a new version of the video for him to see, and then erased it before anyone else could. He needed answers. Determined, Alex turned his attention to Jod Karim himself. If anyone could explain this, it was the man who had uploaded the original video. But finding information about him was surprisingly difficult. Unlike other YouTube co-founders, Jod had largely avoided the spotlight. There were few interviews, no recent social media activity. The last known public appearance he had made was years ago. He checked LinkedIn. Nothing. Twitter. No updates in years. Facebook. An abandoned profile. Then, an old forum post caught his eye, an obscure technology discussion board from 2006. The thread was titled, "Where's Jod Karim?" The original post speculated that after YouTube's success, Jod had distanced himself from the platform. But one reply stood out. Jod never distanced himself. He disappeared. The account that had posted it was deleted. Alex's stomach churned. He opened another tab and searched deeper. Eventually, he found an archived article from 2005 discussing YouTube's launch. It featured a blurry photo of Jod with two other co-founders at an early event. But the caption beneath the image made his blood run cold. Pictured left to right, Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and an unidentified guest. Unidentified? That didn't make sense. Jod Karim was one of the co-founders. Why wasn't he named? Frantically, Alex searched for more images of the original YouTube team. But every official photo he found featured only Chad and Steve. Jod was absent, as if he had been erased from history. He scrolled back to the blurry photo. Zooming in, he focused on the unidentified guest. The image was too grainy to make out details, but something was off about the figure's face. It looked blurred, like an out-of-focus shadow. As if Jod Karim had never been there at all. Alex's phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. He was never meant to be found. Alex stared at his phone screen, his fingers cold and unmoving. He was never meant to be found. The message was clear, yet impossibly cryptic. Who had sent it? And how did they know what he was searching for? He glanced around his dimly lit apartment, half expecting to see a shadow lurking in the corner. The only thing staring back at him was the silent glow of his monitor, still frozen on the blurred image of Jod, or whatever was left of him. He needed to dig deeper. Determined, he turned back to his computer and searched for any records of deleted or altered versions of Me at the Zoo. If the uncut footage truly existed, someone must have archived it somewhere. The Wayback Machine had captured old snapshots of YouTube, but frustratingly, most early video files were missing. Then, he stumbled upon an old discussion on a forgotten image board. Thread title, "Me at the Zoo, have you seen the final frames?" The original poster claimed to have found a version of the video that was different from the widely available one. They described a set of hidden frames at the very end, frames that were supposedly cut from the original upload. One reply stood out. "Don't look at them. They are not for us." The thread had been archived, the original poster's account long since deleted. But one user had linked to a now-dead website that had allegedly hosted the uncut version. Alex copied the URL and ran it through an internet archive service. To his surprise, a snapshot of the site existed from 2005. It contained a single downloadable file, zoo_full.avi. The file was broken, corrupted beyond repair. But Alex knew there were ways to extract partial data from damaged files. He ran it through forensic recovery software, hoping to pull anything usable from the wreckage. Slowly, fragmented images began to emerge. The first few frames were normal, the familiar sight of Jod standing at the zoo, speaking to the camera. But as the extracted images continued, something changed. Frame 19, Jod is mid-sentence, but his eyes are slightly off focus, as if he's looking past the camera at something unseen. Frame 24, the elephants in the background are no longer in the same position. They haven't moved, they have shifted, unnaturally, as if reality itself had glitched. Frame 32, the camera is trembling, but Jod is frozen in place. His mouth is open, yet there is no sound. Frame 41, a distortion in the background. A shape, barely perceptible, standing behind the fence. Frame 56, the entire image is corrupted except for Jod's face. His expression is now one of sheer horror. Frame 62, the final frame. Jod is gone. The zoo is empty. The camera is tilted downward, as if whoever was filming had dropped it. The only thing visible is a shadow stretching across the dirt, a long, unnatural silhouette that does not belong to any human. Alex's stomach twisted. This wasn't just an eerie anomaly. Someone had removed these frames for a reason. A new email notification popped up on his screen. From unknown@nullserver.net subject, "You've seen too much, body, delete everything." Alex's breath caught in his throat. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Was this a threat? A warning? Or something worse? Before he could react, his computer screen flickered. The recovery software crashed. The extracted frames vanished from his hard drive as if they had never been there at all. And then, his speakers emitted a single, garbled whisper. "They're still here." Alex's heart pounded as he stared at the empty folder on his desktop. The recovered frames, gone. His hands trembled as he tried to reopen the forensic recovery tool, but the application refused to launch. It was as if his computer had purged the data on its own. Or something had erased it remotely. His inbox still displayed the ominous email, "Delete everything." He hesitated, then moved the message to a separate folder. He wouldn't delete anything. Not yet. Instead, he went back to the forum where he had first seen the mention of the forbidden frames. He had to find someone who knew more. But the thread was gone. Not just locked or archived, completely erased. His stomach twisted. He refreshed the page, hoping it was a glitch, but the forum now displayed a generic error message, "Thread not found." Every post discussing the uncut version of me at the zoo had vanished, as if the entire internet had decided to forget about it. But Alex wasn't ready to let it go. He turned to a last resort, private message logs. Some forums stored copies of messages even if the original thread was deleted. If he had interacted with anyone in the discussion, there might still be a trace. A single result appeared. A message from an unknown user, sent 2 days ago. The sender's username was just a string of numbers and letters, XA09321. The subject line read, "You're looking in the right place." Alex clicked on it, his pulse quickening. If you're reading this, the thread is already gone. They always delete them. I don't know how long this message will last, but I need to warn you, do not search for the uploader. Jod was never meant to be the first. If you've seen the final frames, it's already watching you. Do not reply. Do not ask questions. Just forget what you saw. Alex exhaled sharply, his mind racing. He tried clicking on the sender's profile. Account deleted. Frustrated, he copied the username and searched for any mention of it across the internet. Most results were meaningless, but then, a Reddit post. It was from an old conspiracy subreddit, buried under years of forgotten content. The post title read, XA09321, the silent account. The original post claimed that this user had been active across multiple forums for over a decade, always appearing in discussions about unexplained internet anomalies. They would leave cryptic warnings, hinting at hidden content and deleted files, then vanish without a trace. But one reply stood out, written by someone who had once interacted with XA09321 directly. They don't just warn you. They know things. Things no one else should. I asked them once how they knew about deleted content. They told me, because I was there when it was removed. Alex felt a shiver crawl down his spine. Was XA09321 someone on the inside? A former YouTube moderator? A whistleblower? Or were they something else entirely? His hands were shaking, but he knew he had to keep going. He switched tactics and searched for archived versions of me at the zoo on lesser-known internet storage sites. He found an old torrent file claiming to be a raw backup of YouTube's earliest uploads. It had only one seed. He hesitated. If what XA09321 had said was true, then continuing down this path meant risking more than just lost files. But he had already come too far. Alex clicked download. The download progress inched forward at an agonizing pace. Alex's screen flickered occasionally, but he told himself it was just his paranoia. The torrent file claimed to be an unaltered backup of YouTube's earliest uploads, but he knew better than to trust that at face value. Whatever was hidden in me at the zoo, it had been deliberately erased, and now he was bringing it back. A notification popped up, download complete. Alex exhaled and opened the folder. Inside, dozens of video files were arranged by upload date, each labeled with a cryptic string of numbers. He sorted them chronologically, scrolling down to the earliest one. 2005_04_23_methazoo.avi. His heart pounded. He double-clicked the file. The video started normally. Jod stood before the elephant enclosure, his voice clear but grainy. The footage looked identical to the public version at first. But as the seconds ticked by, Alex noticed subtle differences, the way Jod's eyes darted toward the left of the frame, the faint tremor in his voice that hadn't been in the version he had seen before. Then, at the 19-second mark, the screen glitched. Jod's face distorted, his features stretching unnaturally before snapping back. The elephants behind him stopped moving entirely. The audio warped into a low, pulsing hum, rhythmic like breathing. A single frame flickered, a frame that had been removed from the official upload. Alex paused the video and scrubbed backward frame by frame. There. A shadowy figure stood just behind the fence, barely visible in the dim light. It wasn't part of the original crowd. It wasn't even looking at the camera. It was staring directly at Jod. Alex swallowed hard and advanced another frame. The figure's head twitched slightly, an unnatural jerk that no human could make. Its face was obscured, but its outline was wrong, too tall, too thin, as if it had been stretched beyond normal proportions. He checked the timestamp in the corner of the frame. 4 hours 23 minutes and 5 seconds, 13 hours 46 minutes and 9 seconds. That didn't make sense. The video was recorded in 2005, but the timestamp suggested a different time, 1:46 p.m. He cross-referenced it with an old weather archive. On April 23, 2005, the San Diego Zoo had been sunny at that time. But in the frame he was staring at, the sky was overcast, gray and lifeless. He played the video again. At 24 seconds, the audio cut out completely. At 26 seconds, the camera shook violently, though Jod remained still. At 31 seconds, a whisper crackled through the speakers. A single word, barely audible, stretched unnaturally long. Leave. The video cut to black. A new file appeared in the folder. Alex's stomach turned. He hadn't downloaded anything else. But there it was. don'twatch.mp4. His hands trembled as he moved the cursor over the file. It hadn't been there before. Someone, or something, had placed it in the archive. He clicked it. The screen remained black, but the audio played first, a distorted voice, layered and overlapping, whispering in a language he didn't recognize. The whispers grew faster, more frantic, until suddenly an image appeared. It wasn't the zoo. It was his apartment. His chair. His desk. His monitor, showing the exact screen he was looking at right now. And behind him, a shape. Alex spun around, heart hammering. The room was empty. He turned back to the screen. The video had stopped. The file was gone. A new email notification blinked at the corner of his screen. From unknown@nullserver.net subject. Last warning, body, you should have deleted everything. The lights flickered. And then, his screen turned black. The whisper returned. But this time, it was inside the room. Alex's apartment was plunged into an unnatural silence. The only sound was his own ragged breathing. His screen remained black, an abyss reflecting his own haunted face. He reached for his phone, hands trembling, but before he could dial anyone, his speakers crackled to life again. A whisper. This time, it was closer. He turned, eyes darting to the corners of the room. Nothing. But the feeling of being watched was suffocating. He forced himself to take a slow, steadying breath. He had to stay rational. He had to. His monitor flickered back on. The email was gone. His desktop was empty, as if everything had been wiped clean. No files. No folders. Nothing. Alex clenched his jaw. He refused to believe he had imagined it all. Someone, or something, was trying to bury this. He wasn't going to let them. He reached under his desk, pulled out an external hard drive, and plugged it in. If they wanted to erase everything, he would make sure there was always another copy. He opened his browser, determined to retrace his steps, to find another trace of the forbidden frames of don'twatch.mp4 of XA09321. But as soon as he clicked on the search bar, his entire screen filled with a single message. Stop. A chill ran down his spine. It wasn't a browser notification. It wasn't from his operating system. It was just there. A message in plain, bold text against a black background. His mouse was frozen. His keyboard was unresponsive. Then, the message changed. You are being watched. Alex shoved his chair back, heart hammering. He grabbed his phone and snapped a picture of the screen, evidence, proof that he wasn't going insane. But the moment he lowered the phone, the screen changed again. Look behind you. The breath caught in his throat. He didn't want to. But something in the air shifted, something cold, something wrong. Slowly, he turned. Nothing. The room was empty. But the shadows in the farthest corner seemed deeper than they should be. They felt alive. He stepped forward, just slightly, peering into the darkness. His phone vibrated violently in his hand. He looked down. An unknown number. He answered without thinking. Hello? At first, there was only static. Then, a voice. Layered, like 100 whispers speaking at once. You shouldn't have watched. The call ended. The screen went black again. His own reflection stared back at him. But there was something else. Something just behind him. A silhouette. Tall. Watching. Alex spun around. The room was empty. But the whisper remained.